Everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations and your assignment today. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the full moon in Gemini, and this is for the 18th and 19th of December 2021. Hope you guys are well, and this video finds you at a place that is at peace, right, where we are right now in the world. So I've got a lot to talk about today in this video, a lot to unpack, sharing my insights, both Jen and I, what we've been talking about, and what we think can be empowering to you as you take this astrology and use this report as a way to really connect with your own individual experience and what the astrology is really offering for us as a collective at the moment. So you'll see that there's some chapters that are part of this video. You can just click on them, go back and listen to them a few times as well, so you can really kind of assimilate what it is that I'm sharing, okay? All right, so the agenda today is Venus-Pluto Conjunction. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Chiron, it's going direct. Of course, Uranus and Saturn are going to be making a third square, exact square, on the 24th of December. And then the continuous Jupiter square at the moment with the nodes, which of course it's really impacting us, especially how we're kind of experiencing this Venus about to go retrograde, and the Pluto conjunction that Venus is having at the moment. So that's what I want to deal with today and share with you. Now, the message that we see as part of this full moon has to do with the kind of reprocessing of fear that is showing up for us, that has been showing up for us over the last 2 weeks. And of course, this is deeply influenced by Pluto-Venus conjunction, or Pluto at least, or Venus at least, applying to Pluto, and what is coming up for us emotionally with that transit. And then how it of course ties in with the fact that this square that's taking place with Uranus and Saturn, how that's giving us an opportunity to really free ourselves from these internalized beliefs that we have, that we still carry with us, that we place into our world, and then we interface with those projections essentially, and then we see the world through that lens, and it kind of separates us from our true inner relationship to what you are, or at least what your personal story is about, right? And of course, how right now there's a tremendous amount of fear that will emerge into the collective as we begin to process collectively the transition that we are going through. And again, that's represented by the social planets of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. And of course, how these planets are radically reshaping the landscape that is our social structure, and how we are needing to, in a sense, find our own place within the new organizing system that is occurring on the planet at the moment. So releasing the fear, really clearing out old messaging that no longer represents the truth for you, and really stepping into and experiencing a new direction. So a new direction has emerged. I'm sure many of you in some way have kind of felt that, but it's just outside the scope of your reality. And in one way, we're also feeling like we're being pulled back into the past, and we're facing old patterns. So releasing fear, trying to move into a new direction, but realizing that there are still some lingering things that we need to clear out, right? So that's kind of the message that we see with the chart at the moment. So Venus-Pluto conjunction, okay? So Venus is now currently in a new phase relationship to Pluto. I'll show you all of this in the chart. Venus made a conjunction, and I think that was this last week, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, around that time, last week, Tuesday, Monday. And it must have been pretty intense for all of you. For me, there was a tremendous amount of, childhood memories that came to the surface, a lot of grief. I think a lot of us are really dealing with a tremendous amount of grief from certain experiences that we've had in earlier parts of our lives that we still need to process through. This is, I think, contributing a tremendous amount to, our ability to feel free, to step into a new landscape or a new space that we want to really be in, as opposed to still being stuck and attached to the dependencies of structures that are clearly fading away. And a big part of this Venus conjunction Pluto happening as it goes across and then through its retrograde pattern goes over Pluto again is really for us to see the deeper emotional memories that we hold within our emotional landscape. So to kind of give you an imagery over here, imagine that you were looking at a cross section of layers of sand, right? Layers of sand. So you'd have like the top of the sand over here, or the earth, and then as you go deeper or down, you will notice that there are different layers of different sand, right? And Pluto is essentially coming from the bottom up to the surface and saying, hey, by the way, here's some really deep core memories, emotions, feelings, impressions that you are carrying with you that are stopping you from really, feeling empowered within yourself, or are still revealing to you where you may be stuck in a grief pattern that will often look like a feeling of victimization, right? Things are happening to you. And so this Venus really is going across and kind of pulling things to the surface and saying, hey, like you don't need to carry this anymore, right? And I think a very empowering message that you can all internalize, especially if we were to understand what the contents of this material is really about for us as a collective, and how we are all participating individually in the collective consciousness or the collective landscape of emotional imprinting. Emotional imprinting is Pluto and Capricorn, trying to free ourselves from restrictions, free ourselves from ways in which we shut ourselves down, where our power is not really truly being emphasized, right? We're not taking charge of our lives. This Venus retrograde here wants to highlight that. And the message I feel is, a large part of maybe the guilt that you carry, where you feel that you can't free yourself because of whatever rationalizations, like you don't need to carry that. Okay, you don't need to carry these projected internalized grief, guilt patterns that may have been the result of how you were parented. Okay, you can be free. You can free yourself. You are not attached to the projected self-worth that society can place, or that you can internalize or may have internalized, whether it be through trauma, whether it be through just the way that your upbringing was about, or just in general carrying an underlying sense of I don't matter, I'm not worth it, right? So really kind of breaking these substructures of internalized beliefs and impressions, and also to give yourself permission to free yourself from any structures that you think you're going to get in trouble for, or it's not the right thing to do. Venus in Capricorn, if you've got Venus in Capricorn, you would have grown up in an environment where there was very strong kind of structures and rules in place, and there was a tremendous amount of punishment that you would have had if you had crossed those boundaries. And so there's a lot of fear that will definitely be associated with breaking out of what you feel is normal. So what becomes normalized becomes a pattern of consistency. And so this Venus-Pluto conjunction really is trying to challenge these internal structures that we carry within ourselves and say, is it true now? Do you want to carry this going forward, right? And that brings me to actually the Chiron about to go direct, right? Chiron is stationary today. And, Chiron in Aries, I could speak for 3-4 hours on it. But if I had to kind of try and simplify it as much as possible, Chiron in Aries is here to show us where there is, on one side, a great deal of restriction that may be self-imposed for belief systems, and then an actual revelation around how we are living in our outdated governing structures that need radical transformation in order to meet the current, right, sphere of human consciousness at this stage, which is very much about individuation, very much about freedom, and to find one's own sense of choice. And we're living in a world where Chiron is very much showing that stark contrast between the line of trying to free ourselves from archaic structures and beliefs and ideologies, and wrestling with, is it okay for me to actually step into my own power, and not feel othered by other people, or to be projected on, or to even in a sense kind of have your own super ego judge you and persecute you for saying that you don't matter or you're not worth it, as an example. So this Chiron moving direct is really going to kind of give some space for people or it's going to feel like a pressure to want to break out, to want to heal ourselves, primarily from the way that we've emotionally danced with the last 200 years, or maybe let's go back a little bit further, like 1,000 years worth of structures of reality and the way that we've governed ourselves as human beings, right? And so there's a tremendous amount of radical change that is occurring for us, and across the board there is so much diversity in terms of the way that this is playing out. There's just multiple pockets of environments where some people feel free, some people feel oppressed, some people feel traumatized by the past, etc. And this Chiron is really, really moving through Aries, trying to help us in different ways navigate this very sticky landscape of emotional distress that we've carried for such a long time, where there's been imbalance, or where we've not felt that we can be free from. There's so much to talk about. Like when I think about being free, I mean, if you were growing up in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, a lot of the way that boundaries would have been honored would have been, you do as I say kind of thing. And we carry a tremendous amount of fracturing within ourselves, where we don't even know how to assert our own authority, because there's this interject that's within our psyche that says, oh, is it okay for me to do this? Can I give myself permission to be who I am? Or and then in other ways, it's like, did you even know that you had a choice, right? So psychological patterns that will show up for us are things like people who have got mass codependency dynamics, or haven't got any connection to their instincts. These are the types of things that are, bubbling to the surface for us to kind of process through. And in many ways, you'll see there's a whole movement of trying to heal these things for us. And of course, Chiron is at the helm of that for us. Okay, so let me jump to the chart. Let me talk to you a little bit about what is going on over there. And we'll do that now, okay? All right, so as you can see, this is the chart. This is the 19th of December. And here is the Chiron stationary direct that I've just recently been talking about. As you can see, Chiron is actually, let me just click here. Chiron is making a trine all the way to Mars on the south node, okay? So I've talked about in the intro that Chiron trining, or the Chiron is kind of, that we are trying to and attempting to free ourselves from beliefs that we carry within us that are rooted in a deeper reality, where a fundamental wound or trauma, or just a perception that we've internalized, okay? It doesn't have to be as intense as trauma, but there are displaced emotions, or we are stuck in a kind of fear cycle, right? We don't know how to do this. We maybe don't trust ourselves. So this trine that's happening between Aries, or between Chiron and Mars in the south node here, speaks to the capacity to free ourselves from these past patterns. So the past equals south node, Mars equals initiation of new direction, and then Chiron reflects to us, not only because Chiron is also being ruled by Mars, so you've got a repeating theme here, but also that Chiron is showing us the pattern, or the ability to connect with this deeper emotional signal that is held in our bodies that says, oh, right, this is something that I can't trust, or I'm in fear here. And so it's helping us recalibrate our response not from a more primitive space, which is held in our limbic system, but something that's a little bit more cognitively aware, right? You can become aware of where these patterns are controlling your life, and then being able to actually objectify them and then free yourself, right? That would be that pattern that is really in the sky for us at the moment, and there's a support at this moment. Now, if you go ahead and look at this over here, you can see that here's the Pluto-Venus, what I'm talking about. Venus is about to go retrograde, as you can see illustrated by the stationary. And this is where the paradox sits here at the moment. Venus and Pluto are in a new phase, meaning that there's an instinctual desire to explore something new, okay? And recently I had a conversation with somebody who had asked, you know, how would you experience a new phase conjunction? And this is how I feel like, this is how I actually experienced it. So over the last like 4 days, I've noticed that the energy has become so intense around new experiences that I get like, my nervous system gets really overwhelmed quickly in terms of the multiple directions that can be explored all at once. So what I feel this new phase Pluto-Venus is about is that there's an overwhelming sensation of so many directions that are available to us all at once, and we can't make a choice, right? Intellectually, we can't make a choice. Oh, I've got to do this. Oh, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do that. So this new phase energy, while it won't last for very long, is actually the start of something very profound. And this has to do with the onset of what it will be like after Venus goes direct, okay? And when eventually Venus goes over Pluto again, which is that we will get this opportunity to step into this new landscape. Like, this energy will offer us a completely new lease on a direction for all of us. And what it will feel like is that there's so many options available that you need to choose. And what you've got to really do with new phase energy, even if you have it in your own life, is to actually just not think about it, but to just respond and act act instinctually, and just interact with each thing as it is in the moment, and witness yourself interacting with all of these multiple experiences without the idea of what is it leading me to, right? But just kind of really being present with the moment. So this new phase Pluto energy very much is showing us that within the next 2 months, there's going to be a tremendous shift for all of us in a very positive direction, I think. And why I say positive is because if you're listening to what I'm about to share with you right now, you can literally be able to step into that space and not be consumed primarily by these fear structure, or the absence of the structures in our lives, right? The world that we live in today is in a place where the structures that once represented the pattern of human condition have faded. The more that you come to terms with the fact that what you see in the world right now is an attempt to try and reorganize ourselves relative to a faded structure, like Pluto has eliminated things. And so it's all about individual process. And this energy over here, in fact, this whole entire chart speaks to the capacity and the ability to align yourself with something that's really true and real and organic for you, as opposed to being to following the impressions of the rules and regulations that are imposed on that are established, right? So it's like a new lease on life. And while it may not seem like that, inwardly it's actually the case. But if you see in the world outside, you see psychic energy trying to form attachments and reinforce a pattern that no longer represents the future. And so it is literally a faded reality, and that reality will become more and more bizarre and weird, and it just won't make sense because it is literally just part of the past. So this energy right now, especially here with Saturn, Saturn is the planet that is being ruled by Uranus, and that's where on the 24th you'll see this third square come into place. And what it says to us is that the way, the fabric of society, the structure of the past is faded, it's gone. So you have to be able to step into the beat of your own drum. You have to begin to figure out what's actually your own passage, your own purpose, as it were. And that's when you will start to find inner meaning. And that's why you'll see, like, so much in the world right now, people are trying to find meaning. We've lost the meaning we've lost the roots, right, of our society. And yeah, that's correct. They have been severed. And if we try to reclaim that, or try to sew ourselves back to that faded reality that is essentially gone, all you're going to experience is the ghosts and the phantoms of the past. That's what you're going to see. And if you look in the world and you feel into the world right now, that's what we see. That's what there is, right? And the worst part about it is it appears so real, Neptune, that you can't actually tell the difference between the phantom of the past and the essence of nothingness that's in front of us. And this is a time where right now organizing yourself into places that deeply resonate with you, this is all part of these transits, right? And that's why the archetype of fear is coming up, because if you're going to associate your life and decision making relative to the fear that is existing in the world, because it is right there. I mean, that's what happens, right? If I ask you to walk across a bridge with no side handles on it, you're going to feel insecure. You're going to feel unbridled. You're going to feel that this is not something that is safe. And of course, fear will come up as a natural way to protect yourself. But if you align with that fear and see it as the truth, what will occur is that you will just fixate towards the reoccurring attachment to something that is not really there. And it will just be a construct. It will be a construct that will have emptiness in it. And that's the key. The emptiness is the absence of meaning, absence of spirit, because it's gone. And so in a sense, we are deeply wrestling with how do we transition from a time in our lives where the meaning once symbolized something that we could find ourselves in, to something that is no longer representing who we are, and crossing a threshold, albeit an intensely difficult and profoundly, radical shift in human understanding. When we cross that bridge, when we go over that threshold, we actually find deep meaning, because we're no longer associating our sense of identity to the outside world, but the inner connection to the truth of your own personal journey. And this is the bottom line here. Like these planets and energies are just reflecting how those shifts are taking place. The third, Uranus square to Saturn is just indicating the work that has happened throughout the year. You're no longer in January and June, when these two squares took place, it changed the landscape. And we're coming back to a point at the end of the year where all of the things that have changed in your life, where you have deeply internalized your own security, you're going to benefit from. And where you still hold fear-based structures within yourself, you will be reminded of. And that's what this is about here. And this Jupiter, which is where I'll end off today, this Jupiter, notice it's squaring the nodes, right? Squaring the nodes. And so what you're seeing here with the Jupiter square the nodes is a kind of flip-flopping between stepping into something, into a new structure, and then being held back by your own ghosts, essentially. Like the phantom, if you still carry a phantom with you, within yourself, within your psyche, and you project it into your reality, you will be faced with that. And I talked about that in the Venus video that I did recently. This is a time where we're walking into the cave of darkness. And what you see in the world will be a reflection of what you carry within inside of yourself. Okay? And so this is an opportunity to really confront the things that you see in the world and ask yourself, are the monsters that you create, or the phantoms you create, what do they tell you about ourselves, about you, and what do we tell us about ourselves, right? And it's an incredibly confronting Pluto conjunct Venus period of time right now. But oh my gosh, is the level of transformation and renewal equal to that? Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to flick back to the screen now for us, but my sort of thoughts to you are that if you want to take this next kind of month with these transits, really question the beliefs that you carry within you and ask yourself, is there any fear associated with it? Okay. And am I placing that fear in front of me and then interfacing with that fear as if that is what the reality is? And then do that for the world. Ask yourself, where do you see the construct? Where do you see the lunacy? Where do you see the patterns not adding up? And ask yourself, is that actually the nature of reality, or a reality that is trying to be patched together that no longer can be, right? It's kind of an emergence of assimilation, and not in the context of assimilation like the world's assimilation. I mean, as in when things have faded away and we recreate something, it's not the authentic thing, right? This is an incredibly deep conversation, and I part of me doesn't expect us to all kind of follow with what I'm sharing here, but listen to it a few times and kind of really just feel into what I'm sharing here, because you will notice it in the world. You'll see where our own perceptions are coloring deeply, of course, the way that we see the world, but also where do we still place our awareness outwardly and identify ourselves through there, versus the potential to really come into the inner navigation system that you have with yourself and connect with your own instinct, connect with your own observation, correlation of what seems to be real and not real. Yeah, that would be the key for this as we step into this new year, particularly around kind of January and February. A tremendous amount of the work that's been put in during 2021, you will see start to manifest massively in 2022. So I'm pretty excited about that. And of course, I'll cover a lot more about what that means in further videos, okay? All right, my friends, thanks very much for listening. I really hope that you got a lot of value from this. I appreciate your time and attention. And yeah, be sure, of course, to share this video with those that you feel are going to find value in it. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed to this channel, subscribe to it and let YouTube know that this is something you want to be notified as well, okay? And yeah, before you go, the last thing I just want to share with you, I'm sure you've probably seen already, the astrology program is going to be, actually the registration for that is going to be opening super soon. And honestly, I'm really excited and I can't wait to actually begin teaching in the astrology program. So if that's something that you're interested in, take a look out or be on the lookout for some information that we'll release when the actual program starts, okay? And then you can sign up for that, all right? Okay, my friends, thanks very much for listening again. Take care, bye-bye.